today's moderator, Mr. Sri KVR Murthy, Chairman of Sri Gayatri. Please give a huge round of applause. Sir is going to be moderator for the day. And we have another speaker who is Dr. Jyoti Reddy Ghanta, Director of Education of the Sri Rama Hyderabad Schools. Srimati K. Sharada, Joint Secretary of this race. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Ms. Sonia Nagpal, Principal of Gitanjali Vedika School. Mrs. Srilata, an Education Consultant and Curriculum Research and Development. Please can we hear a huge round of applause for Ms. Srilata. I think Madam is not there, she will be joining us shortly. Then we have Ms. Kalwan Kaur, who is a legal consultant and student. Please give a huge round of applause to Ms. Kaur. And we also have Mr. Umang Gupta, who is CEO of Medical Group of Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of this young personality. And we also have Ms. Alfia Hussain, who is the Director of Neo School, Aiza High School. Can we hear a huge round of applause? And that brings to the end of our panelist. And yes, I'm so sorry. We do have also Ms. Meghna Nuri, Founder and Chairman of Fountainhead Global School and Junior College. I'm so sorry for that. Can we hear a huge round of applause for this eminent speakers? And I'm sure today the discussion is going to come up with something fruitful. Sir, would take the stage. If I could ask you to tell in one phrase, when we have such an eminent speaker, what the audience at the end of the session would expect. If you could say in one phrase.
So this Indie Global Education Festival is really bringing all the educationists at a place to have a clear drilling regarding exactly what happened during the Corona season or rather Corona time and post-pandemic situation. What is the thing where the schools need to focus very much regarding the academics or rather in the other way, the holistic development of the organization, how the things can be done. So about this particular part, I think the first topic is the same one, that is challenges that we are facing after a reopening of the schools. So there's a post-pandemic, what are the problems that we are trying to face? So I think rather just as a quick review, we start with the basic things like, you know very well that agenda of the today's the discussion or the panel discussion is that only challenges after reopening of schools and colleges. So in that, I think rather we will try to discuss about what are the the basic introduction, that is the primary objectives of us, the schools, what should be the primary objectives of the schools. Then after that, I think the next part is what are the challenges that we are facing now. In addition to that, next is I'll try to introduce the panelists, and with that we'll go for the panel discussion. So first, if you try to start with the first part, like what is the primary goal of any school? If you try to think, the primary goals of any school, whether it is the pre-pandemic or during pandemic situation or post-pandemic, the primary goal of any school is the same. That is the what should be the academic improvement, how we are going to do the academic achievement. Then the holistic education. So how we will be providing the holistic education to the children. So mental and emotional well-being, problem-solving ability, reduce impact of inequities, encouraging self-confidence. So these are the ideas with which any school is going to start. So with these ideas, if you try to start, I think during or rather before the pandemic situation, every school has got his clear vision what to do and what should be the way in which the things have to be taken forward. So that's how the things were going on in a perfect manner. But suddenly during the pandemic situation, so every one of us, we are assuming that during overnight, a very important thing took place, that is the digital education could got evolved across the night. Like by next day onwards, it should be the digital education era. So every one of us, we are feeling very happy that yes, the digital education, which may take almost 15 to 20 years to get implemented in a proper way, has been implemented overnight. So the technology has been advanced much. But the major problems that are arising because of that particular aspect is, so just if you try to visualize for a minute about that particular aspect, like during the pandemic situation or just before that, for the child, very important tool, if you ask what they used to feel is like they want to have that iPad or 4 or something like that. I think earlier in our childhood, when somebody wants to give, or for the children, they used to play songs in a different way. Chandamama Rave, Jabili Rave. I think now they have gone. Now we got iPad Rave, iPhone Rave, or otherwise that way it is happening. So that is the instrument where they are very much fond of. But the thing is, during the time, we used to keep a lot of restriction to the child that you are not supposed to open this particular instrument. So suddenly, during that overnight, when it was explored, that as we are supposed to give the instrument, so we have given that very precious the instrument which the children are expecting, we have given that suddenly to them. As they got that particular instrument, then they started exploring their activities. Their activities. That's a very important aspect. So, and in the process, what happened is the teacher, whom we are thinking since morning also, a very important tool in the complete education part. So there, the teacher has not been properly trained. And one more thing is, teacher was not born in technical age. For that teacher, you ask them to teach, and the technical savvy guy, the student, has been given the instrument which he is liking very much. So because of that inexperience, the teacher started delivering the tools, but whereas this 2 years program and all, so we are coming across so many problems, right? Like maybe in the form of academics, the co-curricular or extracurricular activities, or the other things like the psychology wise also, the children, lot of variations. So we are getting the things. So the challenges that we are facing now are the major things. These are the things that we need to discuss today. That is, first one is heterogeneous class with the homogeneous teaching, right? Like when the student is in 8th standard, he started working with the academics maybe 2 years back. So some of the students have done some work, majority they have not done the work. So that's why the class in which the students are sitting, even though it's an 8th class standard, the students are from 5th class, 6th class, 7th class, and also 8th class. So with those standards of children, they're sitting in the class, but the teacher has been given an assignment of only 8th class teaching. So that is, it's a heterogeneous students are sitting for a homogeneous teaching part. So which is a major concern, has to be addressed. I think every one of us, we are talking about that there is a learning loss. So how to fill this learning gap? This is a very important aspect which has to be focused now. And socio-emotional loss. So the socio-emotional loss also, so how the children are at the present stage, the social, like interaction with elders, interaction with the relationship with the elders, or interaction with the peer group, or rather the relationship with the peer group, or identifying themselves exactly where they are, and empathy towards the different aspects, and self-respect, or rather reacting to the situation. All those things are becoming a very big problem nowadays. So all these things, that is socio-economic emotional loss, these two things are the very important aspects which we need to address. And after that, we have the skills and overall performance. Like earlier, when the child used to come to the school, we used to identify what is his skill. Everybody is having their own strength and weakness. So identification of skills and rather training in the particular area of their own skill has not been taken place for the last 3 years. So that way there is a gap, and losing study routine. Like everyday timetable earlier used to be in one way, but now I think during 3 years they have been trained in such a way that whether they wake up or not, or whether they make the bath or not, just simply they used to attend the online class. For online class, I think rather all those things may not be required. So that's why that is becoming another a very big problem for us. Then the another very important aspect is reading and notes taking ability. Recently, I had done a survey in one of the reputed school. When you try to see, I think rather from the 5th class to 9th class practiced on paper. So that is becoming a major problem. Even for the holding the pen aspect also, nowadays if you try to see, the way in which they are holding itself is a very big question mark to us. That's why I think rather the reading and writing part, relatively they are very bad. I think that analysis, if you try to see, in the very like I think rather in the urban sector itself, in a particular school, if you try to see, the way in which there is, out of all, Hindi, very bad shape. Hindi, hardly, I think in the 10th grade point, I think rather they are getting, even 8th class children also, they're getting around 1 on the 10th scale, right? And the 10th scale. Of course, of all the 3 languages, slightly they're better in English. And in the group subjects, they're very weak with respect to social. So social, hardly we're getting 1.5 to 2, and whereas the other mathematics and science slightly better, that is science around 3.5 they're getting, and mathematics maybe 2 to 2.5. Even in maths also, so the basic now number system also, they're not having any proper hold. So this is the thing. So all these things are going to happen only if they have the proper ability of reading and writing. So if they do not have that habit of reading and writing, of course, how do this influence that particular part means? I think those who can able to write and they can able to read, then only they can understand about the science or any other language. So that way, reading in notes and the training ability has been majorly failed. Lifestyle, they has been totally changed, because the earlier lifestyle and the present lifestyle of the child is going to be, it's almost in a totally different way. Electronic gadgets addiction. Earlier, they were not the owners. Now, presently, they are the owners of that particular instrument. So, because of it, this is becoming a major problem. And sitting tolerance. I think rather this particular problem, each and every school is facing now. That is, earlier, we used to make the children to sit in a class continuously for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, depending on the school timetable. But now, hardly a child is in a position to sit for 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that, right? So, that is the sitting intolerance is there. Then following school rules. Even this also, earlier, 3 years, they don't have any rule. Now, there is a rule. School rule is there. So, following that is becoming a big problem. And the another one is test-taking ability. So, when I interacted with some of the children, I asked them what type of thing that you require in education. What they are saying is, sir, we want to have offline class, online exam. I hope you can understand the meaning of it, right? They want to have only online examination. So that is a test-taking ability of the most of the children. And positive competitive spirit. Of course, basically, this particular aspect, positive competitive spirit, because as they were not in the society or as they are not among the group of the children, so that positive competitive spirit has been lost. The last is impact of inequities. Earlier, inequities means we used to talk about only 1, 2, 3, like maybe because of the financial part or maybe so urban, rural, that way we used to speak. But there are so many inequities. So all these things, these are the challenges that we are facing nowadays. I think by covering these topics, all panelists will be doing it. Now I will introduce to you the panelists. So with me, now I am P.V.R. Murthy, Founder Chairman Sri Gayatri Education Institutions. Presently, I am doing that CEO of Kshetra Learning Center. So in addition to me, with me, the other are Dr. Jyoti Reddy Ghanta. So she is the Director of Education, Sri Ram Hyderabad Schools. And Amok Gutta. So he is a COO, Meridian Group of Schools. Srimati K. Sharada, Joint Secretary, Academics, Social Welfare. And Miss Sonia Nagpal, Principal, Gitanjali Vedika School. Miss Halim Hussain, she is the Director, Neo School. And Miss Meghana Musnuri, so Founder and Chairperson, Fountainhead. And Miss N. Srilata, Education Consultant. And Miss Kulwant Kaur, Legal Consultant Parent. So these are the associated panelists. So now I think we can go for the discussion of the forum. So now I will start with the discussion with Dr. Jyoti Reddy ma'am. I think with the first question, like as I have given this one earlier, heterogeneous class with homogeneous teaching, right? So as we are talking, we are having the children who are having the different backgrounds of the knowledge, but there is the disparity of these children. So by making the disparity, different groups of children in a class, how can we balance this thing, and how do we fill the learning gaps? I think this is a very important question that we have in our this thing, which has to be answered by us properly. So I hope rather Jyoti Reddy ma'am, as she is having a vast experience in this particular aspect, I thought definitely she can give you a proper solution regarding this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and namaste one and all. It's a good opportunity to have such discussions. So, what I strongly believe is each educator has their own perspective about every challenge, and they might come with a better solution than the others. So, such forums help us to have an opportunity to listen to others, understand, and take our own decisions based on our perspective and based on our context. Because we are here from different backgrounds. Some are from private schools, some are from government schools, and within the private schools we have different set of backgrounds, right? So first of all, one solution doesn't fit. And what I feel is this heterogeneous class with homogeneous teaching is not a challenge that we are facing post-pandemic. This was existing from a long time. However, it has become more vivid in terms of observation and discussion post-COVID because of the gap of those 2 years. So my answer to this question would be generic in terms of the topic, as it is a challenge pre and post-COVID. So what I strongly believe is teaching is simple. Teaching is very simple. Teaching to make the learner understand is the crux. So most important pedagogical objective is to make the learner understand. And as we all know that there are different types of learning styles. So for me, what I feel is educational leaders or the expectations from teachers is very complex. Putting the teachers in a fix without giving essential tools and the expertise to them in terms of training sessions. We expect them to get into differentiated teaching methodologies, and if we are giving training sessions related to those topics to handle the children in different levels, that would be more important. And it is not only about learning styles. Actually, there are challenges related to the cognition, teaching cognition challenges also when we take the learners. So if I have to put it across, one of the challenges is the learner's mindset, metacognition. When I use that word, the learner, it's not only about the teacher. We have learners where they do not have the mindset of, they don't have the ability to understand their learning style and also grasp. That is one type of challenge. The other type of cognition challenge is about mistrust based on the concept or the teacher that they are having. First of all, they mistrust themselves unnecessarily. They don't have confidence about their understanding capacity or cognition capacity and their learning capacity. So that is one challenge. One more challenge is about the prior knowledge. We all say that the class has heterogeneous type of students. So it depends upon the prior knowledge of each student, right? And the misconcepts. So we do not have any system like having the child in the same class, which is very unfair. I don't agree as an educator. So the child keeps on moving from one class to the other class, having misconcepts also. And especially now with the learning gaps of 2 years, the child who is entering into the middle school, he might be in grade 4 before COVID. So, and we are expecting them to do or take the assessments of grade 6, right? And the approach the child has faced as a primary student in the school is completely different. In primary school, it's more about caring, nurturing, understanding emotions, and giving a little bit about the concept. The minute he jumped to middle school, after 2 years of gap, assessing him the concepts related to grade 6. So the learning gaps are to be addressed, right? And what I feel is, under the teachers, it is very easy for us to discuss as panelists and say so many things about what is expected to be done in classes, but the teachers, so the way we handhold the teachers, the way we train the teachers, the way we help the teachers that it's okay to fail, but try to address each child in the class. That makes a lot of difference in terms of what type of leadership we have in schools, whether it is any background school. And coming to the teachers, when we have chosen this profession, it is a choice. We can't go back. When the whole world has respected teachers equally as doctors during the pandemic, post pandemic, so I think now we got enough recognition because of the COVID, the way we have come out of the comfort zones and handled the situation, right? So now what I feel is the responsibility didn't end there. The responsibility is more now, because the same commitment in terms of understanding the learning styles of the children and also the child's emotions. We are forget about learning gaps. As an educator, I feel a teacher is going to handle a heterogeneous class of students with different emotions and the mental states that they have entered the classrooms. So it is a Herculean task. So the strategies of handling learning, filling the learning gaps are available. We can get it and collect it. But handling the emotional disturbance or the turmoil, that makes a lot of difference. So for that, we all should get in child and the background of the child, having the personal connect, analyze. So first, the base assessments to understand where the child is emotionally, and the minimum levels of learning of that particular grade makes a lot of difference. So once we know all strategies are going to be absorbed by the learner or not, then when we do the baseline assessments of the minimum levels of learning required for that class, then we get the data and analyze are there are matrix. Accordingly, we have to really get into the teaching strategies in terms of differentiated teaching methodologies. We all as educators know how many strategies are there to handle differentiated teaching strategies, but how conscious are we to execute and implement them in the class makes a difference.
Perfect, ma'am. I think rather the way in which you have expressed is perfect. There, I think rather, like as you said clearly, always we have the heterogeneous students in the class. But the problem is that the heterogeneity gap is very big as of now. For that, as you rightly said, I think the first thing, when the teacher is entering into the class, what is the level of the students at the different stages? I think if they can, gaps are required. Any school, if it closes first as a base idea, because generally when you are giving for the school a schedule, they are running accordingly as per the schedule of this one, because CBS is also giving some timings for this schedule, or this syllabus has to be covered during this time, and available time for us is only that 6 hours. So during these 6 hours, we are making the teacher to do this part and that part. It is becoming a difficult
Yeah. So,
keeping that in mind, just our idea is also the same.
so here I have to add a point, sir. The number of periods the teacher has. When we say the workload of the teacher, we only consider the teaching periods. Are we giving planning periods, correction periods as a part of the workload for a teacher is a key point to understand as the leaders. Knowledge the teacher has is not enough to handle the heterogeneous class. There's a lot of planning required in terms of making a teacher getting into very well organized mode. For that, They have to spend many hours in understanding their learners, the strategies applicable to different learners, then the plan of action and the documentation and the analysis of everything. Teacher workload allotment. So, expected how they can find the solutions, that makes a lot of difference. Most of the times, what this is expected is the statement we give to the teachers. So we have to give the
So this is a very important aspect. Like as Madam rightly said, I think rather by identifying the status of the children, if we can provide the complete strategy how to overcome that particular part, and then if we go ahead with this the additional part of the teaching, I think both the ways the child is going to be happy. Once if the child get the confidence about that particular topic, I think the remaining journey he will be making very comfortably. Thank you, ma'am. Well, important question, like how to bring back the challenges in bringing back the co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Now I request Mr. Amok so to speak on this.
Thank you, sir, for the question. And hello, everyone. I'd like to talk a bit about myself first so that people understand the perspective that I have. So I come from a finance background, and I've been studying for longer than I've been working. So I'd like to think that I have the ideology of a student a bit more rather than an educationalist at this point. So coming back to um, the question refers to huge learning loss and extracurricular activities as if they come at a cost at each other, but I'd like to believe that actually go hand in hand. Huge learning gaps are a huge concern, but I don't see them as a problem. I see them as a symptom of an underlying problem, which I think is the lack of, which I think is the reduction of attention span among students. I think even adults are facing that with what they've endured through the pandemic, with excessive screen time, lack of inactivity, um, isolation, and many more problems such as those. So I think we should address the underlying problem rather than focusing more on the symptom. The symptom here in this case is the loss of learning. If we ensure that the students spend more time in classrooms, just ensure that they spend more time in classrooms while ignoring the other aspects of holistic development. Because initially the whole concept of extracurricular activities was to ensure that the student gets holistic development. If we ignore that aspect and just focus on one particular aspect of academia, which is very important, but I think there's an opportunity where things can go hand in hand, and that would help the student channelize his energy better with extracurricular activities. Meridian Group of Schools, I mean, my exposure to the education world is limited to, in a sense, and we've organized a lot of extracurricular activities already this year. And why I'm mentioning is that when I've seen the turnout, people across the ecosystem of education have embraced it, among other schools as well. And I see that as a positive change. Like the question mentions as if it's coming at a cost, but I see it in a positive aspect where one thing is helping the other thing for the student to be able to focus more. And generally having the ability to focus more will help him tackle that problem. And also the pandemic has been an unprecedented event. So everything that happens after an unprecedented event is unprecedented in a sense that trying to achieve something that was there earlier would set benchmarks which are not maybe realistic currently at the moment. All we have to focus on right now is to move forward from where we are rather than think that in 2019 by September this much curriculum has been covered. We have to tackle the problem in a more dynamic manner, and yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think rather Meghana also almost having the same type of this thing. I think rather if you also can respond on the same question,
Yeah.
almost the same. I think rather.
Yeah. Good afternoon, one and all. Thank you, Amok, for a lot of insights from your perspective on how do you do this. Um, my only way to include these things is make it more fun. You know, try and bring the fun element into these factors of extracurricular. Definitely people would love to embrace that. And it would be a good way to channelize the energies, towards the academics, which is very important, and towards the socio-emotional side of the child, which comes through this fun activities. And we don't have to look at them as two separate entities as such, rather make it more like, make it part of the academics itself. So more integrated with the part of the academics, where the teacher also finds it more comfortable in handling the class than having a serious conversation or a serious discussion on certain things. So they can actually divide their entire lesson plan into couple of 2 lesson plans can be devoted to the extracurricular activities for that particular lesson, which everybody can enjoy. So if any can bring in a fun element, this can be achieved faster. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think adding up of the fun element will definitely bring the curricular or co-curricular activities also into the major framework only. So for that, I think rather relatively every school need to work and need to focus on that area, because that is the age group where only the holistic development of the child is going to take place. So keeping that in mind, I think every school has to give the priority for giving these curricular and co-curricular activities in a better way, because that is the area where they are becoming as the perfect citizens of the country. So thank you. Next, we will switch over to the next question. That is the test-taking ability of the child. Like as we are thinking, every child wants to have the test in his mode, not in the teacher's point of view. So keeping that in view, so what is the problem that we are facing, and how can we overcome with the solution also? I think if we can come out, it may be better. I think Sarada ma'am, I think.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is very difficult to turn our students to online mode to offline mode. All the students are showing interest to write exams in online mode only, because there is no teacher, there is no class leader or principal, nobody there to watch what is going on. So that they are showing interest on online tests only. But we have to observe the students, why they are showing interest, why they are hesitating to attend offline test. We have to question ourselves, first of all, because here so many school leaders are there, as per the calendar of events, as per the syllabus division. Always we are pressuring our teachers to complete the syllabus, and teachers also very hurry to complete the syllabus. But they don't understood the students' capacities or students' learning levels. We know in every class we have heterogeneous groups. My suggestion to all the teachers, always I will give this suggestion to my teachers: please prepare 2 or 3 question papers for each class in each subject, above average, average and below average. And after this pandemic, my suggestion is to ask the student to prepare questions. For that preparing question, the student will read some content. So it will help the student to perform well in the test. If the teacher is giving the question paper, it should be very short and multiple choice questions. If it is very short question, student will enjoy the question paper. It is very easy question paper. There is no essays, there is no diagrams, no need of labeling the diagrams. So that we have to give very short question papers to the students. And always find out the learning levels of the students and encourage the students, help the students who are low achievers, and show our love and affection to learn more. If you hesitate, if you maintain distance to the low achievers, they never learn your subject. And my One more suggestion is, if the teacher is a good teacher, if the student loves the teacher, definitely he or she loves the subject, and definitely they will get good marks in that particular subject. And we have to display the marks in the classrooms. If we display the marks in the classrooms, definitely they will try to get more marks in the next test. It is a healthy competition. So we always encourage the students, and we always keep a, we have in our residential school, we are following one method, that is students performing performance ladder. Okay, in that performance ladder, we post every month group wise marks in all areas. So it will encourage the students. Always they want to be first in that group. So always my suggestion to the teachers, please don't hurry to complete the syllabus. If there are 10 chapters, you complete only 8 or 7. But in that 8 or 7 chapters, that students will be perfect. For that, my sincere request to all the school leaders and teachers, please give time to students to learn the difficult words with meanings, and give time to reading practice. Without all this work, we are giving directly FA1 question paper. So the students don't know how to spell how to pronounce the words, how to read the sentence. Directly they are watching, they are attending the FA1. They don't know how to read the question also. So if you give time to students to learn difficult words and reading practice, definitely they will understand the question and they will attend the exam properly. This is my suggestions.
Thank you, ma'am. Proper, that's the first one. Like, generally when we ask the student what difference you have between you and the teacher, the general answer which we ourselves used to tell number of times is, only the difference is teacher makes the question paper and student doesn't. There is a lot of meaning in it. I think if you can bring the child to the position of making his own question paper, automatically he is going to get the excellence in that particular subject. I think all the interest and everything will get created automatically. So that is one of the very important keynote, I think, that can be practiced by schools. But the other way, I think rather there is a small variation, like the thing is, so like the examination or the CBSE with a lot of research by doing this part, the schedule or rather number of periods for each topic has been properly defined. So the teachers, some of the teachers, not all, because of the lack of preparation with them, I think rather instead of taking 5 periods, they will be doing 8 periods or 10 periods, so for the same period. And conclusion at the end is, so give a detail the time for the student to do it. I think from management point of view, my strong opinion is like every school has to adhere for one type of schedule. If we can do that, then only we can make 100% beneficial to the children. Otherwise, out of 10 lessons, if you are making 7 lessons, means 7 lessons of the teacher's choice, not the student choice. So that is going to become a big problem. So I think rather that particular aspect, I think we need to think about it. Thank you. Next part is like about the language skills. So as we are assuming, if we can make the child to have the perfect language skills, automatically he is going to be very good with respect to the group subjects also. So this is the area where any child is getting some gap. So I request the Miss Sonia Nagpal ma'am to speak a few lines about these language skills, how to improvise in the present scenario. And as I told you just now, maybe 8th class, 9th class children also, they are struggling with the alphabets at this stage, right? I think there, I feel rather about the languages, highest priority has to be given by any school.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my school is very, very unique because during the pandemic when the schools were closing down, we opened our doors to the students of Narsinghi. So we opened in June 2020. So that was the most unique challenge that we had. We did not know the students, we had not met them earlier. In fact, I being the principal, I had not met the teachers also. So we were working telephonically and online, connecting with each other and preparing ourselves for the children during the pandemic. And so that was a huge challenge for us. And now, post pandemic, when children started arriving to the school, what we noticed was that they had forgotten everything. Starting from greeting each other, interacting with each other, just passing on a smile. So we all decided, the teachers, including myself, we stood at the gate greeting each child. So once we greet the children, they respond back. And now, after a month, a period of 5 to 6 months, now they are coming and greeting. So, one fourth one. Yeah. So there is not only the verbal language skills, but also the non-verbal language skills. Uh, Children had forgotten just the walking bit of it. How to stand, how to sit in the class. I think we had to teach them all, right? So just relaxing, not even walking straight, just dragging their feet, carrying their own bodies. So we had to teach them everything. And now I can proudly say that, okay, at least they maintain a body posture, a body language, which is well accepted, right? So that is one part of it. The other is that we gave a lot of opportunities to our children to express, right? So what we did in our school is that I'm giving you the example. I'm an English teacher, so I teach grades 7 and 8. We gave them opportunities of creating podcasts. So generally, you hear the adults making the podcast. Because we wanted to work on the language skills and not just giving them any task, we asked them, okay, you choose the topic according to your interest area. So somebody chose space, somebody chose sports, and they gathered themselves in groups. Now they researched the topic first of all. They read. Then came the scripting part of it. They wrote the script for their own podcast. So the writing skills came into practice, which we checked the first draft, the second draft, the final draft. Then, like technology was already in, our education system, integrated into our education system. We told them the apps that they could use to create the podcast, Audacity, GarageBand, and so on. They recorded their podcasts. They heard it back and they found, okay, no, it's not okay. They heard their peers' podcasts and they gave the feedback, right? And then we came to the final podcast, which were really, really good. So all the language skills were covered here, whether it was listening, speaking, reading, or writing. So rather than just going into, each skill, we gave them a task. And because they had chosen their own area of interest, they just loved doing it. In fact, they gained more knowledge also. Not only that, we also did portfolios. So children creating their own portfolios about what they like in the class, what is it that they don't like about their friends, what are their fondest memories, how proud they feel of their school, they thought and they wrote about it. So we give them different tasks to improve their language skills. Not only that, we recently had our science exhibition. Every child was made a part of the science exhibition. So we had given them various themes. Class 8 had climate change. Class 7 had alternative fuel. They researched, they read about various things, and they presented to the parents. So I think language automatically is enhanced, and they develop the skills when they practice them. So we give them various opportunities, leaving aside the assembly and various other things that we do. So these are the various major tasks that we brought in to make our children excel at language.
Thank you, ma'am. Excellent part. I think rather this is the one which every school, if they can adopt in this way, it will be very much useful to the children, and the learning process also will become more comfortable. Thanks for this session, ma'am. I think with perfect solution it came out. Next part. socio-emotional well-being. So handling the children during in this stage, how it is.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alifia Hussain, and unlike maybe other schools that are over here, I run a school for first generation learners in the part of the city where, other schools like mine are also functioning. And I would like to represent those schools when I'm talking about the social, emotional, trauma that the children have gone through. It may be true that it might be applying to all the other principals and educationists here, but what we have gone through is perhaps rightly described by Mr. Rose when he spoke this morning in his keynote speech. Firstly, when the children were not writing exams and they were all passed, and people started to joke and they said, अगर बच्चे बगैर एग्जाम पास हो गए ऐसा तो कौन से डॉक्टर्स बनेंगे कौन से लॉयर्स बनेंगे हमें तो डर लग रहा है उनके पास कभी जाना पड़ा तो So we are talking of doctors and lawyers who are going to pass. But have we ever thought that what type of finished human beings they are going to be? What type of a product is going to come out when those children who are in homes, where of course we were doing online classes, but at the very same time, there was tragedy happening in their homes, where they were all, they're all first generation learners. Maybe there might be a few in a good income group. No devices, okay? And the adolescents were coping with death, and the siblings were left alone, and no social interaction. So what are we talking about today? Do we want products who are just going to come out? Are we going to be just like, happy with the marks and the things that are, the child is going to get? Or are we going to look into their emotional well-being? And coming to that, there are different types of categories in the emotional well-being. If we talk about Piaget's theory, if we talk about Erikson, they're all talking about the importance of a child's development which happens from the time he is born till 16. How that development, whether it be cognitive, metacognitive, whether it be social, emotional, it is the way that learning takes place. All learning happens in a very happy atmosphere. UNICEF talks about the child's well-being. What is well-being? It is happiness. So when the children come to school after this kind of a shock, can you imagine a nursery child who's now gone into UKG, or a child who's gone from class 6 to class 8? He's become an adolescent. He's seen everything at home. So we are the people here in the school who need to change our vision first. We need to forget about the vision we wrote 2 years ago. We need to realign our vision with the community and the culture we belong to. We need to understand that we do not have to only worry about academics. Let us first see the developmental stages of these children. Let us find out the problems, the solutions, and let us find and integrate those solutions into our content. Today, the need of the hour is not what all you have to study. It is how to study. How are we going to put this content in such a way that it is joyful learning? We have attended as principals and educationists. I've gone to another school to attend a workshop on happy classrooms. What are those happy classrooms? I have come away happy, but am I making those children in my classroom happy? And it is the job of every teacher, every educator. We have taken the fees from these children. We have promised them something. And believe me, in my school, they come to me and they look at me and they say, Madam, हमारे को हमारे बच्चे ऐसे बात करना जैसे आप बात कर रहे हैं. Now that is a very big moral responsibility. We are not just sitting there taking fees. And the parents, they come with crumpled notes in their hands. The fathers lost their job. The mothers lost everything that they had. There was no food at home. We were sending food from the school to the children because we knew that X, Y, and Z has no money, no food. Father has passed away. What are we going to do with these children? So the need of the hour is that we have good role models in the school. Our teachers have to be the role models. First, they became online teachers. Now we want them to be full-time counselors, full-time teachers who are incorporating this into the system in such a way that when the child is coming into school, if he's dragging his feet, if he is not talking, you just pat that child and hug him, and you will find that you'll make a tremendous difference. You don't need to talk. You don't need to say a thing to those children. And we've seen it. Yesterday in my office, I had a child who was in class 1. And you won't believe this, how the time has changed with this pandemic. He comes to my office, a small 6-year-old child, and tells me, "Madam, मुझे बहुत stress है." And I was stunned. I was said, "बेटा, तुम्हारे को क्या stress है? तुम तो इतने छोटे हैं." "बहुत stress है. टीचर बोल रहे इतना होमवर्क करके आओ. मेरे से नहीं हो रहा है और मैं घर जाके रोता हूँ." How is this child even knowing the word of stress? Tell me that, all of you. How did this word come into existence? Because at one time, my school being in that part of the city, there was no stress. Everybody was bindas. बच्चे आ रहे, साइकिल पे आ रहे, स्कूल बस नहीं है, कार नहीं है, डिवाइस नहीं है, सिर्फ गेम्स खेल रहे, and they are happy children. I had to do once an interview with Times of India, and they asked me, "Ma'am, can you talk about the stress levels in your school?" I said, "What stress? Where is the stress?" Because the children were happy. But today, it has turned around. Today, we need teachers who are going to understand the children. They are going to integrate everything in such a way that from the time the teacher is... So now the teachers also came with problems. They did not come, from some other background or from Mars. They came from those same homes where they were having issues. So what my point is that the teachers, if they are able to empathize, sympathize, care, have circle time where emotions are expressed, the child learns. And the most important thing, as Sonia ma'am said, was communication. Let us communicate in such a way that we are able to communicate with them and express our words. So when you go to class, and even I'm an English teacher, we have the tiger in the zoo. And what does it talk about? The tiger in a cage. And I was very easily able to transfer that to COVID, to being in a cage. Twice I taught it. Once I taught it online, and once I taught it now. And I asked the children to express it in words, to express it in expression. And they were able to do happy, sad, frustrated, angry. The emotions were beginning to come out and emerge. And expression to that by terms of role play, by terms of circle time, by terms of games and all the other things. I don't want to take too much of time, but I get very passionate about this whole social emotional thing. And my last point, which I want to cover, which sir was going to ask me again, is the parenting style. We need to change the parenting style. They come and say, confused parents aate bichare, "Madam, kya karna? Bacche bol rahe device do, magar hum nahi dena cha rahe." Arey, device do. Give it to them. They need it. It's blended learning. It's hybrid learning. We have to give the device. But don't tell them, don't show them, "Ke tum kya kar rahe hai? Kya dekh rahe?" Teach them to be self-learners. Let them be discreet in what they're seeing. We need to educate, counsel our parents. We don't have a counselor in my school, mind you. The counselor and my physical education coach went away to a large corporate school saying, "Abhi demand both hai, hum yahan pe kaam nahi kar sakte hai." I'm getting 60,000 there. So what? That does not mean it ends. We have to be innovative. We have to be creative as teachers, as educators. So what? We can still do it. So parents also need a lot of counseling. They need a lot of help. We need to understand the community, realign our vision, our views, our ways of operating. And I'm sure that by that we are going to get proper human beings who are going to be great doctors and great lawyers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Excellently. The exact way, the way in which you have presented that, I think if it can be implemented by all of us, definitely it's going to be a grand success. One more participant, like Ms. Kulwant Kaur. I feel rather the two things. One is the unrestricted, like Madam started that particular part, usage of gadgets. So to the largest extent, being a parent, how you view that particular thing. And from school side, the hygiene part and the all post-pandemic situation, what type of atmosphere you are expecting from the schools?
Good afternoon, everyone, and please excuse my voice today. I'm privileged to have here as a panelist amongst the extreme educationalists, and they have years of experience in running the schools and taking care of lots and lots of children. I'm a mother of two, so I'm going to speak about parent, and of course the parents around me who are close friends and neighbors. And you know that the biggest topic of discussion for every mother is about education of their children, right? So what they are doing in the schools and how the schools are doing for their children, right? So this is a very a topic which is very close to my heart. So coming to the gadgets, so I would say as much as the gadgets are monsters these days, they are the need of the hour also. We need to understand that. We just cannot make them as the villain in today's setup. They definitely are also helping children in a lot of other activities that they're doing. So striking a balance is more important. And we need to understand that striking a balance as parents and as a school management, because we cannot just tell them to completely be off from the gadgets. And again, completely be off from the gadget is not the scenario as post-COVID. I see most of the responsibility and the onus lies with the parents to maintain the boundaries as how much the gadgets should be allowed or not allowed. And if I say the post-COVID, no, the gadgets have entered in the children's life much earlier. And as young as a 2-year-old child, when a mother feeds a child holding a phone, so just imagine, I mean, as parents, you have already started the problem and you have already created the problem. So it's not the problem which has come post-COVID. The problem has started long back. I remember when my son was just a 2-3-year-old, and I attended a Montessori session, and there was the specific time that they have given that they say, and particularly the reference was to the mothers, please don't feed your children while holding the phone in front of them. Right? So now when we are talking about the gadgets, as parents, I would certainly agree to one point that the responsibility and the onus is maximum with the parents, because all schools, if I know well, they have a strict no gadget policy, right? The gadgets are not allowed in the school, no mobile phones, no laptops. Even if it is a laptop, I mean, it is considered and limited only to the curriculum, right? So where is the problem lying? It is at home. Because parents, maybe they are so busy these days that they find it's an easy excuse for them to keep their children busy and have their own time where they can pursue their other commitments. So yeah, striking the balance is very essential. And the open conversation, as parents, what I say, the open conversation with your children is very important. You really have to make them aware about the repercussions, the dangers, the risks that comes along with the unmonitored access to the internet, right? And what we have done in our home is we have jammers, the softwares installed in their laptops so that they cannot access the content which is not meant for them, right? And since I'm a mother of a teenage son, so obviously we have an open conversation with him. We definitely can't expect and live in an era where we assume that they don't know things. They are very well aware about the things. They are very well about what all access they can have to the internet. But open conversation and them feel that, okay, fine, they are our friends also. So they kind of listen. And they understand that, yes, these are the risks and these are the genuine risks. They should not be part of it. And again, coming to the point where I feel that from 3 to 8 years, there is a different age group. Then there's a group from 8 to 12, and then 12 or like 13 to 18, that the typical teenage group. So the treatment is different for every age group. You cannot have the same treatment for your for, for the age group of 3 to 8, because that treatment is different in terms of gadget I'm talking here. This age group does not need any gadget. And parents need to understand that they should completely be off from all of the gadgets, even to that matter their mobile phones or the games or anything. But yes, for preteens, it's a kind of introduction to them where they definitely need to be connected with their friends and they need to be connected with the research. For the teenagers, again, the treatment lies differently because they need gadgets for the research. They need gadgets to get maximum exposure to the related content that they're studying in the schools. So the era is changed, of course, and again I'm repeating my words. It's the maximum responsibility and the onus is with the parents. They need to understand how to set the boundaries. Correct.
Thank you.
With the school, of course, yeah, the no gadget policy is always the best part.
Yeah, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. For the gadgets and all these things also, I think there should be a restriction. So I feel rather almost as at each and every question, as we had the summary discussion also, I think rather we can conclude over this point. Thank you very much. Thank you for all panelists. I think Meghana wants to speak something.
Yeah, if I can add on how you can introduce like rules and regulations in the school is like, you know, how, I mean, in an innovative way, not hurting anybody. So have such group discussions or panel discussions involving parents and students, saying that what are the repercussions of having a rule and not having a rule, and make them
Yeah. I think
come up
students
with
are participating, 100%
with
problem
with
will get
this.
solved.
So that way it becomes easier, and let's have a handful of rules to implement to start with, and then once they are used to, because you know they lost touch with following certain rules for a long time, so have a handful. Once they are happy following those rules, because you know I'm sure a lot of you must have read this book, Power of Habit, or you must have heard about this book. So it says, like, you know, how you create, like, you know, appreciate the positive outcomes, and also there should not be always repercussions of in a negative way. It should be both positive and negative. And if they know this is the positive outcome and then they've been applauded for that, definitely that becomes a habit within no time.
Yeah, that's what ma'am
They
also
they
told.
feel secured, thinking that, you know, why they, rather than feeling that, you know, their safety and all, rather than thinking that, you know, why there's so many rules imposed on them and feeling like, you know, stressed. Yeah.
Sir,
Thank
I
you
would
so
like
much.
to add just one single thing. We did
talk about the children being non-attentive in the classrooms, right? So just sharing so that we can reach a larger audience of students. So what we do in our school is we do understand that they are coming from those 2 years where they were in front of games and videos, where things were moving fast, instant results and instant gratification. They are coming to human interactions now, which take time. There are pauses, there are interruptions, and delayed feedback. So, of course, from the teachers, it's not very prompt, right? So, what we do is we try and bring in things like, so I'm talking about English again. We bring in Spell Bee from New York Times or Wordle to capture their attention where they are involved in the activity, and then we move over to the topic which we are supposed to take. Not only that, we like to give voice and choice to our students. So suppose I'm supposed to do, story writing today. So I'm going to ask my children, how do you want to go about it? Do you want to do it, as an individual activity, a pair or a group work? Also, we like to bring in people from outside. So like I did talk about the science exhibition, we had to do a lot of groundwork, but we brought in Mahindras as a company to our school. So our children could actually learn what is the difference between the electric vehicles and the ICs. How do they function differently? So when you bring in the real life scenarios and situations to the classroom, learning is better and children are involved. Then the question of them being non-attentive or losing that attention doesn't arise at all. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
I would like to conclude whatever we do in terms of learning strategies and all, I completely relate to what Alifia ma'am was mentioning about emotional safety and security. The child is expected to have physical, social, emotional, cyber safety security in the school. And we all were speaking about learners' emotional security. So it's time to think about the teachers' emotional security also, because they were the same people who faced everything at home and managed the teaching learning aspect of their life. And ma'am was mentioning about the first generation learners and their backgrounds. And if I am not wrong, except the academic needs expectation or meeting the expectations of academic needs, most of the children from affluent families have also faced a lot of turmoil because they were exposed to their home and the environment where the late hours was actually a neglect for them earlier being in the school, whereas it became an exposed home environment. So including the children, uh, teachers also have faced a lot. So this is the time, like how ma'am was mentioning about to equip teachers in counseling so that they handle children. As leaders, I think we need to take care of teachers' emotions and teachers' emotional safety by making them feel that we are there for them. And we, we have to create those counseling corners or safety nets for our teachers in the school. And first, emotional safety. So wherever there is no board examination, I think we can cut down the topics, informing the parents in advance, saying that we are taking care of your child's mental being, well-being, and the content will be addressed by us. Your child is not in board exam. We will connect the dots, but give us that comfort to handle the emotions of your child so that he is a happy child in a happy school and in a happy house. Thank you.
That brings to the end of the session, but I must sincerely say that this being the most intriguing session, because the session started, it was really indeed organic. And what I see when these eminent speakers are speaking here, they may represent different school, but they have a same objective. That is the existing factors, post-pandemic and others. So I must congratulate Mr. Murthy the way you have moderated, and also all the eminent speakers who have really put out their inputs. And I must say that, like the way they have encouraged each other, and they have been very patient and listening, and they have really been what do we call supportive to each other. I must, on that note, I would say that it's been really great session. It could have been better start than this. So I would request all the eminent speakers to stay, because we have Mr. Dr. Nagarajan Ramamurthy, Director of IMM, all the way from Amritsar. Sir, I request you to please come down on the stage. Can we have a huge round of applause to Mr. Murthy? Sir, if you could just say 2 words before we could give the away momentous to our speakers.
Thank you. I won't take very long. It's time for lunch. I still remember the days of my schooling in Chennai. For the teachers, no offense. I used to bunk classes. Okay. The reason is that it was so boring to sit in the class and just read from the book. The teacher says, exam mein ye aayega, like, the page number 56, these 2 paragraphs, and then page, so abhi kitab mein likho. One thing that I hated in my life was writing. Okay. I can type, but never I disliked. Even today, sometimes I cannot read my own handwriting. Okay. So the reason I'm saying is that I think learning in school should be fun. Okay. And that responsibility lies on you. Okay. And I can also tell you that your job is more difficult than my job. Okay. Because the reason is, at least when these kids come to higher education, they are a little bit more matured and better behaved. And the easier thing is the PG level, at least they are really somewhat, I would suspect that they are really motivated to be there. Otherwise, they don't go to PG. So in school, I can empathize, sympathize with you. I think it was rightly mentioned that the socio-emotional health of teachers and worse, the school principals during the admission season or when somebody fails. And or you look at the YouTube videos where a parent, hits the teacher. That's even worse. Okay. But I think, I want to thank all of you for doing a great job. That is something I think is underappreciated, in my opinion. The school teacher's job is the toughest one. And thank you for all of you for doing that work. Okay. And the products you produce are the ones that come to us, right? So please do a good job and continue to improve. Thank you very much.
Great, sir. I would request Mr. Murthy to please give a speaker moment to our moderator, Mr. PVR Murthy, Chairman of Sri Gayatri. Can we hear a round of applause to Mr. And then to Dr. Jyoti Reddy Ghanta, Director of Education of the Sri Ram Hyderabad Schools. Ma'am, could you please? And then we have Mr. Amog Bhutta, COO, Meridian Group of Schools. And then we have Ms. Sonia Nagpal, Principal of Gitanjali Vedika School. That would be great if you could hear a huge round of applause to all these eminent speakers. Yes. Then yes, we have Ms. Alfia Hussain, Director of Neo School, Aziza High School. Then Ms. Kulwant Kaur, Legal Counsel and Parent. We have Srimati K. Sharada, Joint Secretary of Tesveris. And last but not least, Ms. Meghana Musnuri, Founder and Chairman of Fountainhead Global School and Junior College. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to all the eminent speakers and, of course, our moderator.